Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movies Actually, where we give you an honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over at Maybe Movies. And this time, we're talking about Hawk the Slayer. Yes, that's right. The 1980 fantasy film starring Jack Palance, John Terry, and Bernard Bresslaw, as well as including the talents of Patricia Quinn, Annette Crosby, Roy Kinnear, and, of course, Patrick McGee.
Be still, ugly one.
A film directed by Terry Marcel and produced by ITC, which was an independent television channel, or corporation, wasn't it? It was an independent television corporation in the UK.
Yeah. This is all of the member berries.
Oh, it is, yeah.
100%, yeah. So, I mean, when I would have been 6 when this came out.
Yeah, I was 7. Once again, it was one of those bank holiday films.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, for those of you not in the UK, bank holidays are public holidays. That's just what we call them, bank holidays, which are usually occur on the Monday of any given week, where children won't have to go to school and therefore have to be entertained during the day. And during the 1980s, television channels would just stick on a couple of random movies on bank holidays to keep the kids occupied for a few hours, and Hawk the Slayer was one of those ones that just turned up a lot.
It did, yes, yeah. I mean, it's quite an amazing achievement considering. I mean, I did have a look, so apparently it's made, the budget for it was about 600,000.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, I knew it was low, but that's low.
Yeah, and it did well in the UK, although apparently because ITC collapsed, it never got a theatrical release in the States.
Oh, right. So I'm guessing a lot of you overseas are just wondering what the heck we're talking about.
Pretty much. I mean, when we were getting ready for doing this, I suddenly remembered that it obviously had such a little impact. I think it was shown in the States about 2 or 3 years later. I think CBS ran it as a late movie or something.
A late movie?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
But it has so little known outside of the UK that it even turned up on an episode of Best of the Worst.
This felt like kind of like a job to them. They're like, yeah, we gotta make it a fantasy film.
Oh, wow.
I think it was last year or the year before.
Yes, he did. I remember that one. Yes.
Like, what are you doing? You can't. Oh, you don't know what this is.
And again, it's one of those things for those who grew up in the 80s at least. It's a part of your childhood. It's like Battle Beyond the Stars. There are certain films that just turned up over and over again, and this was one of them.
Apparently, again, from looking at it a little bit more into it, originally they hadn't intended it to be like a magical sort of fantasy. It was supposed to be a lot more historical.
Oh, right.
And then at some point during the writing process, that's where the big glowing green gem turned up, and then they just kind of lent into it from there.
Which is why you've got things like the traditional church and things like in there that they must have been part of the original story.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting because, most fantasy films usually have an alternative religion or something that they have, but it's very much implicit that that's just the church.
Yes.
That is just the church,
And it's definitely England, because it was shot all in Buckinghamshire. Also, again, some of the place names it mentions, are you going to the archery tournament at Brackley? I used to live in Brackley. No, that's in Northampton.
So it wasn't, so it's a fantasy version of Britain then?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a weird one, and again, it has a certain notoriety now because of...
You understand? Yes. Yeah.
The performances by certain people, which was a surprise. I mean, I know Jack Palance does have a bit of a reputation for
chewing the scenery.
Yes, but again, it's a weird one because recently, myself and a friend of mine, we were watching some of the other films that he's made, and if you've seen him there's an adaptation of Dracula with Jack Palance. There's an adaptation of Jekyll and Hyde with him. His performance is amazing.
Right.
He can do understated, and he can do understated menacing really fucking well.
Well, I mean, I saw him in a few things where he was more subdued when I was younger, but you just remember him for the scenery.
So this, when he was in Buck Rogers, that was another one.
Yeah, of course.
Did he have the glowing hands or something? I seem to remember.
Yeah.
But again, he is your go-to bad guy for the early 80s, really.
He really was, yeah.
So, for those who don't know this at all, it is a fantasy film, as we said, made in the UK. Very heavily influenced by Star Wars. It's a good versus evil fantasy story about two brothers who fall out essentially over a woman.
You set me up over a woman. A woman!
Basically, yeah.
And deals with the aftermath or what happens as a result of their rivalry. That's about all we can really say about it.
Without giving too much of the plot away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's worth a look. It's an odd one. It really is. I mean, unfortunately, so coming back and looking at it now, I do find, regardless of all of, as I said at the start, all of the member berries that go with it, you just kind of go, it could have been better.
It could have been better.
You know?
I was always aware that I had a really low budget. You could tell.
See, I must admit, I was always a lot more, certainly as a young kid, the reality of of those kind of things never entered into me. I was very much about the story.
Oh, right.
So I was very much captured by the visuals of it and things like that. I'd probably say one of the lasting things from it is this like, kind of fascination with elves. I was always taken by Crow as a character.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But kind of, that's what I'm talking about. Crow was kind of the problem. The way they used his abilities in the film demonstrated that they didn't have the money to do other things with him, which there could have been ways that they could have made it less obvious what they were doing.
Yes, that's true. Although, curiously enough, 3 years after this was made, there's a film with... what's his name? Is it Tony Hatch from the original Battlestar Galactica? Who's
Richard
Apollo?
Hatch.
Richard Hatch, thank you.
You're talking about the original Apollo.
Yeah,
so
he was in a film about 3 years later called Adventures in the Forbidden Universe or something?
Do you mean Adventures in the Forbidden Zone?
No, it's not Forbidden Zone. No, it's Adventures in the... Oh, I was just looking at it and I forgot the name of it. In the Forgotten Zone or the Forgotten Kingdom or something.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, I think I remember hiring that.
A very, very low budget film about him and this woman who get transferred into this parallel dimension.
Yes.
But the guy who plays Crow and the guy who plays Baldwin are both in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean, 'cause I must have literally seen... probably haven't seen that since I was 10 or 12, so, you know...
But again, and I think the character that the guy's playing, who played Crow, is a similar type of character. It just happens... he's just coloured green.
Oh,
that came up recently. I think it was on Prime or something. And I was like, oh, what's this? And then spotted the names. I was like, hang on, I recognise these people. As I said, looking back on it now, yeah, it could have been done better. And I think the main strength of the film is its charm. There's something about it that you do it just kind of endears you to it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, God. I suppose it's very British.
Yes.
Because it was produced by ITC, it uses actors a number of these actors like Roy Kinnear, Patrick McGee.
Try the wine.
A lot of you across the sea are not going to know who these people are unless you watch a lot of things like the Carry On films and really into British culture from the 60s, 70s and 80s.
Oh yeah, Christopher Benjamin as well. Again, he was a regular. He was in several Doctor Who's and things like that.
Exactly. But we grew up watching films that were produced by the BBC and by ITC and things like that. So it's got a nostalgic quality all of its own just because of the production values. I'm sorry, some of that may be a little bit wasted on you overseas, but you're looking at a little slice of our childhood.
Yes, and again, a little piece of an attempt at going toe-to-toe with the big boys, if you like.
Yeah, they were trying for something a little bit epic.
Yes. Yeah.
I understand that originally they were planning on making like a trilogy.
They did go into, the following year they kind of announced, and I think it was in one of the fanzine, I think it was in Cine Fantastique or something, that they were going into writing Hawk the Destroyer.
Oh, right.
It was going to be the follow-up, which never happened, unfortunately. Actually, as you're on that, there was a move in 2015 to do another one called Hawk the Hunter, and they even started a Kickstarter for it, but they didn't get the funding.
Okay, right.
I think there are still plans to try and do something with it, which was designed to be more of a prequel and show the early kind of friction between Voltan and Hawk.
I'm sorry, but the ship has sailed on that one, surely.
Although there is apparently a comic strip of it at the moment running. I don't know if it's still going. I think in 2022 there was a strip of it running in 2000 AD.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, that's cool. See, that's okay. You know, some sort of other medium, but in film, I think the ship has sailed.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was written by Garth Ennis.
Oh, right.
So, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Garth Ennis doesn't do superheroes, but Hawk the Slow's not really a superhero.
No, I suppose not. But I think the other part with that was they were looking into expanding on the idea of there being more than one of these sort of Mind Stones and stuff. and they were trying to use that as part of the story.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, Father said it's the last of the Mind Stones, but that doesn't mean the other ones are destroyed. It's just the last of them.
Yeah, the last of them that they know where it is. Yeah. We should really say something about the music as well, because again, that is part of the charm of it. Is that?
Yes, yeah. It's a very prog rock soundtrack. In the good sort of way, it's very reminiscent of things like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. So if you're fond of those, you'll enjoy the soundtrack straight away. And it does add an extra layer to the film. It raises the production value, I think.
It does, yes, yeah. And even the little motif that they put in there.
Cut him down.
A la Sergio Leone from the spaghetti westerns. Every time Hawk turns up,
Yeah,
it's his own little theme, which is kind of quite nice.
yeah. There are some nice little elements to it, and you can feel that the effort went into the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's just a shame again, and that is the downside of again knowing who so many of these character actors are from growing up in the UK. Every time I see Bernard Bresslaw, I just expect to hear Carry On music.
Yeah, yeah. Bernard Bresslaw will always be the Carry On guy for me.
Unfortunately.
Same with Roy Kinnear, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, for me, as I said, I am torn. I'm definitely going to give it 1. I'm trying to be a bit more discerning, I think, moving forward. So I'm going to give it a 1. I can't. I'm trying to reserve the 2s for really great films now. So it definitely gets a 1 from me. It's worth a look.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to give it 1, but it's a nostalgia thumb. It is a nostalgia thumb.
It is.
If you enjoy lightly cheesy sort of late 70s, early 80s fantasy films, it's probably worth a look. You'll enjoy it. If you're expecting high production values, if you're expecting Conan the Barbarian, no,
you're not going to find that.
You're not going to find that. Crumb. But if you're up in the mood for a little bit of cheese, perhaps having a good laugh and a giggle with some of your mates, there's nothing wrong with it.
No. So yeah, there's plenty of action. Despite being mostly bloodless, there is plenty of action.
Yeah, but a lot of those fantasies were bloodless back then.
That's true. Thank you again, Mary Whitehouse.
Oh yes, yes.
No, I'm terribly sorry, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to have to excuse us. We're going to have to rush. Otherwise, we're going to be late. I have for us here 2 tickets to the Colosseum. So if you get the M4 of wine, I'll go and get the blood spatter boobs.
That sounds fantastic.
And we will see you next time.
As always, guys, DTFN.